Hi David, thank you for providing me with your analysis of the financial situation of the city. You have provided a good analysis of the financial situation based on financial ratios which are used for comparison purposes, as they provide an overview of an aspect of an organisation's financial health. You have used ratios for solvency, liquidity and financial performance to provide a financial overview of Bergstadt's financial situation. You advise that the solvency ratio measures the ability of the city to meet its long-term debts, i.e. if the city has high equity in comparison to its debts, it has a high likelihood of meeting its debt obligations. The higher the ratio between equity and debt, the stronger the solvency of the city. Dividing the total equity by total sources of revenue that are located on the balance sheet, you came to the conclusion that the city has a solvency ratio of 0.27% for both 2013 and 14. Interestingly, you note that although this ratio did not change from 2013 to 2014, the balance sheet shows that equity fell from 22 million to 20 million, but total sources of finance fell from 85 million to 75 million, which demonstrates some stability in the long term. You further note that a 0.27% ratio also means that its equity covers 27% of its total sources of finance. Because in 2014 there is a 20 million in equity, any future losses can be buffered by this amount. This breathing space is important if revenues such as grants or money received from taxes decreases in the following year. It's a very good point. You go on to discuss liquidity, which is the city's ability to pay its short-term obligations and also refers to its capability to sell assets quickly to raise cash. To calculate the liquidity, you divided current assets by short-term liabilities. The liquidity ratio for 2014 is 1.25%, which you have advised is a good figure because it shows that short-term assets are 25% higher than short-term liabilities. On the other hand, the most liquid part of the assets, that is cash in the bank, has a liquidity ratio, derived by dividing the banking cash balances by current liabilities, of only 0.5 in 2014, down from 0.57 in 2013, which means there's only enough cash to cover half of the debt. So this is something that needs to be looked at. Finally, you looked at the financial performance ratio, also known as the cash coverage ratio, which is the city's ability to pay its costs from the revenue it receives and is calculated by dividing total revenue by total costs. You noted that in order to show a sufficient ability to pay its costs, this ratio should be substantially greater than 1. You note that in 2013 this ratio was 0.93, but did increase to 0.95 in 2014. However, this is still not ideal as it is less than 1. Even so, because the budgeted financial performance ratio for 2014 was meant to be 1.08. You have advised that overall the solvency ratio demonstrates the city has a considerable ability to pay off its liabilities in the long run. After analysing its liquidity ratio, you have advised me to ensure that accounts receivable are paid and on time in order to have enough cash to always pay the city's short-term liabilities. Finally, you advised me to either increase taxes, fees or tariffs or reduce the city's expenses in 2015, such as salary costs, considering they make up the greatest proportion of the city's expenses. You note that this would reduce the deficit on the income statement and therefore improve the financial performance ratio, which is currently unsatisfactory as it is less than 1. A surplus, I would suggest, could be used to bring down some of its debt too, which has high interest costs. I should note that any increases in taxes or fees can create a social and political impact, and the city needs to ensure that the socially disadvantaged are not further disadvantaged by any measures. I thought you provided an excellent high-level analysis of the financial situation in the city that will support my future decision-making. Having said that, I would have appreciated a greater understanding of the potential consequences to the city of not addressing its current poor financial performance. I would suggest that the city is unlikely to become bankrupt, but it may get dictated to by central government concerned about continuous losses and lack of equity, and the banks will require high interest rates or more restrictive borrowing conditions due to the higher level of risk. Hence, as you say, low financial performance needs to be addressed. Thank you.